We're zeroing in on Buxar. Now, this is a spot sitting right on the banks of the Ganges in modern-day Bihar. And what's fascinating here is that ancient myths don't just, gather dust in old texts. They literally translate into living, breathing history right beneath your feet. It's an incredible place. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the city of many names, move into the Ramayana Crucible, then explore the Panchkoshi Parikrama tradition, look at where empires clashed, and wrap up with a living tapestry. All right, part 1, the city of many names. Our story actually kicks off with, get this, a literal tiger curse. Yeah, according to the ancient Puranas, Rishi Vegshira ended up crossing paths with sage Durvasha, and Durvasha was notoriously short-tempered. The result? A curse that literally gave Vegshira a tiger's face. He was only cured after bathing in a very specific holy tank right here, which became known as Vgarbapuri, or Tiger Lake, and over centuries, that ancient name, Vgarbapuri, linguistically morphed into the name Buxar that we use today. Kinda wild, right? But before it was Buxar, this exact geographic coordinate held some seriously profound titles. Most famously, it was Sideshram, a renowned hermitage of fulfillment, where these great sages would perform penance for eons. It was also called Vgarbapuri, which literally translates to the womb of the Vedas. So these names are a huge giveaway that long before Buxar was a modern city, it was this absolute epicenter of spiritual learning and deep meditation. Moving on to part 2, the Ramayana Crucible. This brings us to the ultimate question of the Ramayana's Buxar chapter. We always hear about Lord Rama the king, right? But how exactly did a young prince transform into a divine warrior? Well, Buxar is the exact location where he first truly tested his mettle. It's literally the crucible where the Prince of Ayodhya shed his hesitation and became the absolute defender of Dharma. The sources tell us that initially, Rama actually hesitated to kill the demoness Tadaka simply because she was a woman. But he was instructed by sage Vishwamitra that a king's primary duty is protecting the righteous. So Rama stepped up and defeated the demoness, who, by the way, had the strength of 1,000 elephants and had turned this beautiful, fertile land into a total wasteland. This was the single event that established him as the defender of Dharma. Looking at the ancient texts, specifically the Bala Khanda, we learn that Sage Vishwamitra actually traveled to the court of King Dasharatha in Ayodhya with a very specific request. He needed Rama's help. He brought the young prince to this exact forest in Buxar to protect a sacred sacrificial fire, a yagna, from demonic interference. And the texts specifically note that it was right here in these forests that Rama, guided by Vishwamitra, received divine weapons, or astras, and the secret knowledge of Bala and Atibala to completely overcome hunger and fatigue. So the really crucial takeaway here is that Buxar wasn't just some random battlefield. It was a high-level, intensive training ground for divine endurance and cosmic weaponry. Vishwamitra didn't just want a bodyguard. He was educating Rama and his brother Lakshmana. And they put that training to use. Over 6 days and nights of defending Sidhashram, Rama deployed this incredible ethereal magic against the demonic threat. He used the Manavastra to literally hurl the demon Maricha deep into the ocean, and the Agnyastra to slay Subahu. All of this ensured that the Vedic rituals in the region could flow completely uninterrupted. Now, if we move just 6 kilometers away from Buxar town to a place called Ahalya, our sources record another, frankly, incredible event, the Ahalya Uddar. The story goes that as Rama was heading toward Mithila, his foot brushed against a stone, and that simple touch miraculously restored Ahalya, the cursed wife of sage Gautama, back to human form, granting her salvation. It stands as one of the most poignant, powerful symbols of divine grace in the entire epic. Which leads us to part 3, the Panchkoshi Parikrama tradition. So how does that history survive today? Through the Panchkoshi Parikrama. This is a 5-day circuit where devotees literally trace the geographical footsteps of Rama and Vishwamitra. Over 5 days, pilgrims walk through 5 very specific villages around Buxar. They start at Ahirali, where Ahalya was liberated, and they finish up in Chari Chavan. And at every single stop, they're welcomed by the locals in the exact same way Rama was thousands of years ago. But my absolute favorite part about this is the sensory reality of it all. On that final day of the pilgrimage in Chari Chavan, thousands of people gather to cook and eat litti choka. According to local folklore, this is the exact meal that was offered to Lord Rama when he finished his journey. So when you smell and taste this dish today, it's acting as a direct, edible hyperlink straight back to the mythological era of the Ramayana. How cool is that? Now, let's jump forward to part 4, where empires clashed. Centuries later, Buxar evolved from a spiritual center into a highly strategic combat zone. Just to give you a quick timeline. In 1054 CE, King Rudradeo builds the Buxar fort. Fast forward to 1539, and the Battle of Chausa happens right nearby, where Sher Shah Suri defeats the Mughal Emperor Humayun. Then we hit 1764 for the incredibly consequential Battle of Buxar. And, as a quick aside, in the early 20th century, archaeologists actually began digging up ancient Brahmese seals here, which just proved the sheer, staggering age of these early settlements. Speaking of archaeology, consider this number, 3.2 meters. That is the staggering thickness of a devastating ancient flood deposit found here. Revealed during excavations in 1962, this massive, catastrophic inundation from the Ganges completely wiped out Buxar's flourishing early urban centuries ago. The impact was so severe that the entire site was abandoned and wasn't reoccupied until much, much later in the medieval period. And then, on October 22, 1764, the cold, hard reality of modern war struck. Major Hector Munro led the East India Company to a decisive victory against the combined Indian forces of Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, the Nawab of Bengal, and the Nawab of Awadh. This defeat forced the Treaty of Allahabad, and look, this wasn't just another battle. It fundamentally changed the fate of India. It granted the British Diwani rights, meaning the right to collect revenue, over Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, completely cementing them as a major power in northern India. Finally, let's look at part 5, a living tapestry. Today, Buxar is this true physical paradox. On one hand, you have the Ram Rekha Ghat. Legend says this is where Lord Rama drew a boundary line in the sand with his bow to block demons from crossing. And today, devotees absolutely pack the riverbank during festivals. Yet, just a short walk away, on that very same soil, lies the Angres Kabristan. This is the English cemetery holding the physical graves of British soldiers who fought in that 1764 battle and the later 1857 uprising. It is just this incredible juxtaposition of deep, ancient mythology and documented, gritty military history. So, as we close out this explainer, I really want you to look at Buxar not just as another location on a map, but as a perpetual crucible of transformation. I mean, it's a place where a young prince became a divine warrior, where ancient civilizations were swallowed whole by 3 meters of floodwaters, and where an empire secured its grip on an entire subcontinent. The layers of history here are just incredibly deep, and it really makes you wonder, what other lost histories are still waiting to be excavated from the sands of Buxar?